Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Noel, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will accept and receive the gifts, the teachings, the wisdom, and the healings from the universe. And hi, everybody, to those who will watch this later, greetings. And this is sort of one of those. Um, Hey, Ian, how are you? How are you? Blessings to you. Um, Sometimes it's one of those things where the creator kicks me in the shins and says, okay, here's a topic. And before you go off somewhere and forget it, we want you to do a connection so I can share this with you because it is important. Now, the discussion about subroutines of the mind. Now, some of you may know, but I'll give you just a brief history. I've had a history of narcolepsy slash epilepsy for many, many years. And as a person who wants to try to control their brain when your brain goes wacky, and you don't want it to, you instead of allowing it to go off into la la land, and I'd always tried to um, avoid a seizure within my head by and I created what I term as a subroutine, and I call it subroutine B, so that whenever I started having these precognitions of having a seizure, and my speech would slur, blah 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 blah, I realized I would start doing a mantra of subroutine B, which meant that I was going to go into, like, think about this as a computer, and it's sort of like a virus tries to take over. And so the subroutine B is just like in programming. I told myself what to do during a subroutine B. I gave myself instructions when I was lucid, and I said, look, when you go into this thing and I say subroutine B, that's going to trigger a little mini program in my subconscious, because trust me, your subconscious remembers everything and things you may not want to remember. But with doing so in the subroutine, I could put myself into a safe mode, like a computer, like the old Windows. When you got the blue screen of death, it went into a safe mode. Or you could put it into safe mode so you could go find out what the hell happened to your computer. So in my situation, I just basically gave it certain instructions, like if you're standing, find a place to sit down. If it just basic things that, like, okay, we're going to go into, it's sort of like once I pre-programmed it in my brain, all I had to do was repeat subroutine B. Bob, we're getting some jiggle jaggle with our connection. Interesting. Things are jumping all over the place. Hmm. We got a good connection over here to the Wi-Fi in the background, but oh well. So Bob, we love you. Here's some coffee. We'd share it if we could, to the AI. So, but anyway, the subroutine. So over my many years, there have been a lot of times where that subroutine B has come in mighty handy and saved me from having an accident, saved me from a fall, being in a strange place. One of the reasons why I quit traveling around so much was because to be somewhere without someone as your co-pilot, it's very annoying, because then if I have one of my little mini episodes, or a big episode, so the subroutine B puts me into a situation that I can still function on a minor scale. Don't ask me any kind of question or where you're going, what you're doing. No, I'm in a safe mode. My brain is I can actually see better with my eyes closed. But, yeah, that's the third eye thing. That's the being able to, because the subroutine includes that. Because bright lights, flashing lights, too bright a light, which affects me a lot sometimes, That's why I've got one of the reasons why I have low wattage bulbs in my house. It's really bad on my eyes. And flickering and flashing on a TV screen, oh man, can cause me to have an episode. And trust me, folks who don't have epilepsy, those flashes are still affecting you. You just don't know it.
Mhm.
But so now, what about this subroutines of the brain? Now, for example, Breaking Dawn's sitting over here, and she doesn't have her phone. It's upstairs, but she's waving hi. I'll give a quick flash, and she
Hey,
can.
everybody.
She's sitting over there in the corner. Well, not the corner, but she's in the corner of the screen. Okay, she's sitting in the front room here. But but with that said, we were having this conversation, and it's like, for example, as far as meditating, we were trying to we were having the conversation of how do we explain our sort of out of body experience, but when we're awake, how,
Yeah.
because there are wakeful moments that I'm in two places at one time. I can see wherever the other me is very
Yes.
clearly,
And
and
I
huh,
can see the I can see and hear and sense and smell the other place that I am.
right,
And here I can hear and see. I don't really feel that much here during that time, actually.
yeah, right. It's a okay. If I'll in case you didn't hear Breaking Dawn, she's a lot more soft spoken than I am, and
Mhm.
further away from the microphone.
Got it.
But in that, she says that, and I feel sometimes I can smell it, but it's mostly that I see it, hear it. But she says she can taste it, smell it, and
Mhm.
so all the senses are in the other place
Yeah.
simultaneously. But in this place, it's like really quiet. Like if you can't smell anything in the room, or now for me, my just because of my hearing abilities of being able to pick up shit that other folks might not hear.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily mean in other realms, but that part too. But I mean just in the physical realm, I got a good ear for things and just always have. So, but in that we have that discernment. So if you hear a noise outside, is it the cat brushing up against the house,
Mhm.
or is it an intruder? You can differentiate because it's a subroutine in your subconscious.
Mhm.
You're someplace else, but what's known in our subconscious, and especially me being here for 40 years ish on this
Mhm.
place. So I'm very familiar with my surroundings. So I know when something's amiss, and it's a program. It's a learned program that's in my subconscious. It's
Mhm.
a subroutine if you want to think about computer programs. Now, it's very important to understand this. It really is. And people will just go, oh, Hawkeye Pshaw. Listen, you want to become a higher spiritual being, then you must learn these certain techniques.
Mhm.
And you must understand the unfolding, the peeling back of the onion skin, if you will,
Mhm.
to get at the really good part of the onion versus the crinkly stuff on the outside, which is really tough to eat. May be good for you, but man, it's hard to digest. But anyway. Hi, Lori. Hey, Tim. How are you? When you're getting stretched too thin in every convenient, comfortable direction, just because you're such a nice guy that it is no consequence. Subroutines are great for getting back to you and now. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Let me go. I'm going to explain the subroutine thing some more. Now, here's the thing. If the discussion was the subroutines of things that we have learned over the years. Now, in my many years of meditation, it takes me much less to make my connection to the spirit guide. It's like I got a direct line now. And that's not to be like, oh, wishy washy or I'm better than the next guy. No, it's through practice. It's through understanding. It's being opening up your awareness. So I don't have to sit down under a tree like some folks do to get where I go now, and
Mhm.
neither does Breaking Dawn.
Right.
Well, I mean, we can basically be sitting here talking to you and be in another location at the same time,
Yeah.
which is for me. I'm like, yeah, okay, I see it, I experience it, but there are times when I don't talk about it much because it's a little difficult to explain and for to get anybody else to like believe me. So it's a story up to this point, but it's also a reality in the shaman realm. Okay,
I've been
so
doing this.
huh?
I've been doing that all my life.
Breaking Dawn's been doing this all her life. And in some ways, so have I. And many of you have been doing similar things all of your life. So, but to the point though, how do you explain this? You can't prove it to anybody.
It's
It's
your. It's like trying to. It's try. It's like almost like trying to explain. Say we both saw this energy being scoot across the field over here. I saw it, and I don't remember if you saw it closer than I did. I saw it way over there. And how would you explain that perception of seeing something there that's not flesh and blood, but it is still there because it's a being and it moved very quickly. How do you get people who don't see that stuff
to
to
understand.
have be able to have that perception that maybe that could be possible?
Here's the trick. And see, um, the deal about this is very, to me, is simple. Spirits gave me the ability to do settings on the camera and take pictures of orbs, which are an example
Mm,
of these beings that are right in our universe, but are also right on the edge.
mhm,
So we try to explain it, but the best way to do it, and I'm still trying to figure out how to use the new YouTube to get the pictures up that we took. Well, it's been 2 weeks ago now, but we'll figure out a way. But trust me, trust us. There's some interesting
well,
pictures.
you have YouTube videos of the fairies.
Right.
Well,
In
there
the same
may
location.
yeah,
In the same location.
maybe fairies are a good example of that in between world.
Well, but so are the orbs. They
True,
all are.
true.
That's my point. They all are.
But we really don't know what the orbs are, but we can see the
But
fairies.
it's part of another dimension that we can't see with our eyes. Is my point.
Right. I get
Okay,
that. I
let's
get
just
that.
stick with that.
Okay.
Because that's a whole nother depth of discussion to go into um, the fairy and whether the orbs are real or not. Oh, they're real.
Oh,
You
I
can
know the orbs
no,
are
but I
real.
mean, but see, a blue orb could be from a different from could be from the blue man group, and the orange ones are from the orange group man, or you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean that simply because we see an orb, the colors may represent an entirely different dimension. They could be an
Mm,
entire dimension within an orb, or like a small portal into another realm.
that's
So
cool. Mm,
and they're being they fly around because I've taken pictures in a series, and you
mm,
can see the timestamp, you can
mhm.
check the photos.
That
They're
purple one.
yeah, and the purple ones and so forth, and there were
Yeah.
some interesting red ones around us the last time. I mean, like sitting in my lap kind of
Yeah.
around us. But the idea though, let's go back to the subroutines though. I want to stay on topic with this. The idea though of the subroutines is, now that I understand that there are beings in other realms, my subconscious gets it. So if my eyes see something that's a little bit out of place now, it goes, oh, that could be one of those energy beings. That could be one of those fairies that I'm actually seeing, because now I understand what they look like in the other realm. I've taken pictures of them.
Hmm.
So now my brain has something to like, oh, is that what they look like? oh, and in a way, it's a pre-programming. I took the pictures. I looked at the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I got the information into my own brain. I was there where I took the pictures. Now I hate for this to be I, but my point is that no one else was in the middle of this. I did all of these things and this. So I had the experience as well as the pictures and what was going on at the time. And I did a
Yes,
video
ma'am, I
a
got
couple of
you.
months ago about that one. Anyway, there's orbs and stuff in the pictures, and I discussed it. And Breaking Dawn and I have been down there, but the water's so low, I don't even want to look at it. It's just we need some rain. But moving on with the subroutine thing. So whether we understand it or not, these things that we experience, these things that we do in any kind of repetition, we're it's being recorded, and and if you recall it enough times, it becomes a subroutine versus a memory. So the more
Mm-hmm.
you use something, like for me it was the subroutine B in the seizures,
Mm-hmm.
in connecting with my spirit guide, I quit listening to other places. Now, which brings up this next sort of topic discussion Breaking Dawn and I were having, which has sort of, prompted this video in a way, but it's important. It's a higher level of thinking, you betcha. It's a higher level of understanding, you betcha. And if you're having trouble with it, you just kind of have to sort of accept it, because as you allow things to come into your world, you'll understand that these other things exist. When I go to the woods, there are certain places that feel really nice, and there are places that are like just the woods. And then there are some places like, yeah, I'm going to move. Not many, but there are those places where you just don't want to stand here. And it's kind of odd because it's like I look around and go, well, there's nothing here. But yeah, but I'd rather move down the bank a little bit on the river. There's a spot right there, just don't know why, but I'm going to move over here and I'm more comfortable. It's the energy of the earth and all of these things that are interacting. People seem to think, for example, that portals only exist in certain places, or that they must be somehow manifested. There are a lot of natural portals that just jump in between, like through the forest, or like down the river or back, local things that may not necessarily go to another galaxy, but they may lead into another dimension, especially if you're a being that can like go there and use it. So, like fairies or even some of these orbs, because I've taken pictures of orbs, and like one, as soon as the flash would recharge, I'd take another 20, 30 seconds later. So you can see an orb, and then you can see it in the background or coming towards you. And then all of a sudden, the next picture, there's nothing there. They all disappeared. Same camera setting, 30 seconds later. Where the hell did they all go? I mean, they were just floating around. So they go from one, two, gone. Where'd they go? So there has to be some kind of um, sentience to it, okay? Because they don't all like fly off like a flock of birds, or they don't do this swoopy thing. They move in individual ways. Now, what has this got to do with subroutines? I understand, my brain understands this in ways that I try to explain, about being in two places at one time and seeing the other self and smelling and tasting. I mean, there was one time, and it's actually occurred several other times. I'm sitting in the cockpit of some kind of fighter craft out in space. And man, when I'm there, it's like, whoa, that's some intense stuff, let me tell you. And it ain't nothing like watching a Star Wars movie. I mean, I'm in the cockpit. I've got a helmet on, I got a visor, and I'm hauling tail through wherever I'm at. And the sensation when I get back here to this world is like, where the hell was I just at? What the f was that? Whoa! Breaking Dawn's had similar incidents. Okay,
Yep.
too many to count. But to the point, though, how do we explain these things to you all?
Hmm.
if you've never had any type of experience in that way.
Right.
So our job is to try to help everyone else understand all of us have this potential. Everything
That's
we've
the
seen,
power of our mind.
that's the power of our mind, but also the power of our spirit and our
Yeah.
soul.
Yeah.
Okay. It goes much deeper than that because that's what the shamans teach. It's
Mm-hmm.
just not a mind trick.
No.
It's not just about, well, I astral projected. Well, hooray for you. And I'm not trying to be rude, but what did you learn? What did you bring back? Do you have any information? Well, and biggest question is, why'd you go?
Mhm.
I mean, do you have a mission? Which is perfectly,
Which
but
brings up that Wonder Woman, the older version of the Wonder Woman series, where she went out to well, I can't remember the whole thing, but she astral projected
right, that's right. Back to
up
the,
to the conference or something
yeah,
like
to
that.
the, she was like, it was, we watched we were skipping through the channels between football games, and Wonder Woman, the old version of Wonder Woman was on, and
Mm-hmm.
she did this meditation and transported herself astrally to her home planet where they had this conference. So she was sitting in the conference, but astrally. So it's like,
I don't know. If it was her.
huh?
I don't know if that was her home planet, but
Well,
that
I'll just leave
yeah.
for the sake of the story. We'll just she went there,
Yeah,
okay.
astrally.
But
Mm-hmm.
to the point, though, um, she was in two places at one time, although her most of her consciousness was in the other location. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So many of us, we may that's sort of like you've had dreams that you can smell, taste, feel. You can feel the ocean air because you were at the beach or something, and it was at the
Mm-hmm.
appropriate time that you were asleep, for example. um, People say, well, I astral projected, okay, and I always ask them, daytime or nighttime? Well, what do you mean? Well, when did you astral project? Well, it was in the evening and I was doing meditation. Okay, so you went somewhere, but what then, was it daylight or nighttime? Well, it was daytime. Wrong answer. Because if you're astral projecting in your own time zone, or okay, so I'm on the East Coast and maybe I'm astral projecting to the Oregon coast or to Northern California, where I camped one time at a state park up there, up on the cliffs. Oh my God, overlooking the Pacific. I'll never forget it. But anyway, so I can still go back to that spot because it had such an impact on me. And I can still feel the salt air and look out across the Pacific and go, oh my God, but am I honestly physically there? No. But I can still taste it. I can still feel the breeze across the grasses. I can feel the motion. It was a religious experience for me when I was there. So, but my brain remembers that. My subconscious, it was such an important event, and I have recalled it many times because it was such a beautiful place. Man, folks in Northern California, anyway, Northern California, totally different. When you get south towards San Francisco, to me, the state just turns to something else. Anyway, the subroutine. So the whole part is, though, that every time we have certain lucid memories, we're actually running a subroutine because our brain recorded it somehow. Now, in the realm of self hypnosis, and trying to learn how to, for me, I've got had three operations on my neck. You can't see the scar too good. I can't lift my neck up. But anyway, I've had three operations on my neck. Replace the
Vertebrae.
yeah, vertebrae, the disc with bone from my hips and also from a donor bone. Let me tell you, unless you absolutely have to, don't put any other person's body parts in you unless it's absolutely necessary. Anyway, their energy does carry through pieces of bone, through the bone marrow.
Mm.
I had some really creepy experiences when I had somebody else's bone in me and they did not heal. I had to go back in the hospital and have them taken out and redone using my other hip. Anyway, But so I use self hypnosis and meditation to envision Bob the Builder going into my neck and fixing me. Now that's a subroutine because how do I wish to heal, but I need a visualization. I want my body to know that these guys are working together in here. So I think little tiny little cells as Bob the Builder. They go in there with their tools and their spackling compound, and I created a subroutine in that I every time I wanted to think about healing, I sent Bob the Builder guys in. I send in, ask this whole house folks. I send in the A team. I send in the guys, they know how to fix stuff. Yeah, otherwise, I wouldn't still be here. So, and sometimes, they're on the loudspeaker going, "Okay, pay attention to your body, you idiot," like cutting wood the last couple of days and splitting wood earlier today. But it's going to get cold down here. It's cold across the nation. But anyway, subroutines. The thing about the subroutines in other realms, you can create a subroutine to only listen to your spirit guide so that you can tune out all the other stuff. It can be incoming and you can go, well, that's interesting, but it's sort of like a firewall. It's sort of like a virus protection. You can hear things from the rest of the universe, but there's a filter in that if somebody's trying to get at you, it's like, firewall goes up, virus threat, something outside trying to come in to, energetically to, muck with you.
That's where I always change the story. Because I had that happen. That was happening to me where I lived down there in Florida. And I knew that it wasn't me. So I would change the story just to shut up and leave me alone,
Yep.
And it worked too. That entity got tired of trying to read my mind and influence my thinking and my emotions too.
Yep.
To feed off of me.
Right. Now, the thing I learned with self hypnosis many years back, and this is the sort of the reason for the subroutine. With self hypnosis, you tell yourself while you're awake in a comfortable eyes closed position, I wish to change my behavior, which was my thing. I wish to not be a drunk. I wish to be able to drop alcohol. I wish to be able to be a better person. So it's in saying that prayer or a mantra, if you will, depending on where you are in the spirituality thing. But for whatever I came up with my own little listen, guys, I want to correct this. So anytime I get the urge, I'm going to have the strength to resist, like smoking another cigarette. Where I used to smoke 3 packs a day, I'm down to half a pack, 3/4 of a pack, maybe. I'm still working on it. I got a cigarette out earlier and said nope, and I closed the pack. Don, she saw me. But to the point is the thing is that do I have this strength? So and I have the choice. I was like, yeah, I really want one, but nah, I'm going to save it. I really don't need it now. So I make the choice. So there are times when I'm not thinking because I've learned that having a cigarette is like really cool to have when I really don't need it. It's a learned experience. So my subconscious runs a subroutine, grab a cigarette, light it, smoke it. So in order to go in there and change the program, you've got to go in and do sort of it's basically you give yourself quote you give yourself hypnotic meaning that you're in meditation is what it means. Okay. So if you're in a good meditation and you wish to change things, then as you begin your meditation, you use one subject. Don't go mixing them up. If you want to quit smoking or cut down smoking, then you just use that. Don't combine smoking and drinking. Nah, pick one. Pick one because the brain will allow you. Well, you can pick both, but it's too confusing. So it's much easier to write a simple, basic subroutine for your brain, which is that post hypnotic suggestion. Hypnotists do it. Does it
Yeah.
work? What are they doing? They're writing a subroutine by giving you, quote, post hypnotic suggestions. It's a subroutine in your subconscious. Oh, I could remember commercials from the 50s and I can sing the song. Why? Because it's been programmed into my subconscious. I
Mm.
remember, Ovaltine, for goodness sakes, and Farfel. Nestles, Nestle's makes the very best
Mm.
chocolate. It was Jim Henson that made Farfel, and one of his first jobs on television was for Nestle's, about chocolate powdered milk thing. Anyway, but to the point though, I can remember these things as a child because I watched these shows, but it's stuck in my brain back. It's in a subroutine. Watching the commercial over and over created a subroutine. Now, there are things that will trigger that subroutine. Now, so much like folks who are MK Ultra or programmed, they have created subroutines in your brain on many different levels. You watch enough commercials. If you're
Mm-hmm.
worried about the Kardashians, then you too have been brainwashed.
That's for sure.
I'm just saying. If you're worried about Brad Pitt and who he's married to now, you too have been brainwashed.
Yeah.
If you're worried, if you pick a subject, you too have been brainwashed because oh my God, look what they're doing, and you react to it or whatever. You folk may or may not, but you understand what I mean by the you. Um, um, Out there. But to the point, though, that each of these things are subroutines on our subconscious, whether we wish to admit it's true or not. So the best thing to do is understand, oh, holy crap.
Yeah.
I've been programmed every time I look and scan through the headlines. I'm programming myself with the
Mm.
daily news.
Mm.
Anything that pops up, spirit goes, "Ooh, there's one,"
Mm.
and I dig in a little further. But if it's just kind of basic nonsense, they just like, So my filter has gotten better with practice over the last 3, 4, 5 years. But I've also asked for that help through my spirit guide.
Mm.
And one of the main things is they say, and Breaking Dawn's over here, she's got some sage and she's
Yeah.
nodding up and down.
I put my filter in.
Right. But the other thing is then you have to trust the filter.
Yes.
If you always
Absolutely.
question the filter, then it's not going to do any good. If fear is bothering you, if
Mm.
stress is bothering you, if your connection is off. So I think Brian of Milky Way, we had a discussion one time about how long does it take you to like meditate. I'm meditating right now. I mean, seriously, I'm connected because there are things that the spirit guides in these higher realms, and you guys wouldn't be listening to me if any of these things that these folks have passed through me to impart with you
Mm-hmm.
and Breaking Dawn,
Sure.
has any of it been negative? Has any of it been to against a peace or against? We have warned you and said, beware. There are areas out there that people are delving in. We have warned you about
Yeah.
sigils. We have warned you about, trying to contact other entities. Stick with your own. We've warned you to stay out of areas of magic and certain things. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't understand it, please don't try. And we've
And pay
also
attention to the energies that are around you.
pay attention to the energies that are around you, says Breaking Dawn. Absolutely. That's the
Yeah.
awareness part.
Exactly.
But the whole part of this is that you understand that there's probably a subroutine already in your subconscious
Mm.
that deals with what's around you.
It's just being aware of it and believing it and trusting it and perceiving the differences, what's coming from you in turn, what affects you from the environment, or from you, from within you.
Is
Yes,
affect.
there we go. See, we had this.
Effect is on the outside.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna catch up with you about this. but it's a separate subject. But we're going to touch on it right now because she brought it up.
I had.
Instigator. Yeah, she had to. She had. Yeah, 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 yeah. But this is not the topic for affect. AFFECT
Oh,
versus effect. Now, the simplest thing that you can do is number one rule. Think about special effects.
yes.
It's EFFECTS. It's
Mm-hmm.
not A. So anytime you try to use the word effect, you have to understand, hang on, wait a minute, whoa, 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 whoa. An effect is a special outside something that can affect you. Another subject.
Right.
But the thing is that there are things outside of us that affect us, that there are effects in the universe that will have a personal effect
Right.
to each of us.
Like
Break
energies.
energies, what awareness, just
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But the idea, though, always think effect is external.
Mm-hmm.
Affect, AFFECT, is internal. How does it affect? Okay, versus external
Effect.
effect, external there's a lot of e's that kind of go with the part, versus affect, which is internal. So
Mm-hmm.
but here, what does this have to do with subroutines? Okay, got to stay on point.
There you go.
There are things within our subroutine that we have created a, I hate to use this word, but it's true. We have sort of created a holographic effect within our subconscious so that we can imagine this, that, and the other thing. That's an effect. Okay, Dave, you said anything internally. Yeah, but it's an external thought that you're putting into it. How would I feel if I was in the wilderness? So I'm setting up an effect in my brain to try to ascertain whether or not that situation would affect me. Okay. So now there are unseen things around us that have an effect on our space. The spirits that walk through, the stuff that have an effect on us. Okay. What does that have to do with subroutines? Going back to the thing, our brain has recorded some of this in a subroutine. It's like a little MP3 or an MP4 movie clip.
Yeah.
It's a couple of pictures taken in a row, and it's in there. Now, whether or not we wish to go digging in our own subconscious, we don't have to go out in the universe because there's a good chance we've already experienced something that's stuck in our subconscious. So when you close your eyes and start using your mind's eye, when
Mm-hmm.
you start expanding these other things that I've discussed about the shaman basics, when you understand these things, oh, holy crap. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to sit all, trust me, I like sitting down under trees and meditating, but to the point, I don't have to go through a bunch of rigmarole anymore because I've understood, because I can, as a, a certified hermit down here in the woods. Um, she raised her hand too. So another hermit, the hermitage down here on the Little Ocklackney River.
She is.
Um, and there's a sign at the top of the drive that says Little Ocklackney Hermitage. So Little Ocklackney River Hermitage. But anyway, I digress. The idea, though, that you have to understand, even when your eyes are closed and you're asleep, if there are external things that are having an effect around you, external, that may have an effect within you, it may be that there's some kind of, I hate to use the word or but I'll just say entity that's flying around, and maybe it sits by your head while you're dreaming, and you dream what the being wants you to dream. What? Yeah, something sitting on your pillow while you're snoring. You know, I've heard that there are certain critters that really like to sit and around snoring, like trolls. But I digress. Uh, but so, how do you attain these things? You attain them first by understanding that they exist. Second thing was we were talking about having a protection. Discuss it with your spirit guide and say, I wish protection for these things. I'm whatever technique works for you, but put your energy out there calmly, not in fear.
Yes.
If you
There is a big difference
yes, if Don just said there's a big difference. So
between putting your energy out there and out of fear. Fear attracts the ones that you really don't want around or want whispering in your ear or affecting you and affecting you. Yes, in any way. But putting out there that, you know, I am love and I am a sovereign being and these things have to go when I tell them, get out of my space, and asking for help, from my spirit guide, from my higher self, got me through what I went through. You
here's the thing about this. If now there's levels of fear. So if
know?
I'm going to put up my protection, there must be something that's warning me to fear, if you will. But the thing is I don't put fear into my projection of my safety net. It's
No.
for right. But but there are people who build protection because they're afraid, okay? And
Mm,
fear gets built into the prayer. Fear is actually shows up in their aura. You have
mm,
to put your guard up. It should just be up all the time. I've said this before. My simple prayer is like, I tried to say, get away from me. Now I just say, you can't get me.
mm.
Because if I learned that because they beat the crap out of me and like to left me for dead in the woods.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I was on a vision quest kind of deal in the woods, and them
Yeah.
spirits beat the crap out of me.
A few
And
years ago, that's what happened
yeah,
to me.
and Breaking Dawn a few years ago for her too as well. So,
Yeah.
but with that said, telling them to go away, they just want to put their fist up. But if you
Mm,
tell them, all right, I don't care if they're mixing in the crowd, if you will. You can't have me. You can't get me. You're not
mm-hmm,
going to get me because
mm-hmm,
I am a sovereign being. I
mm-hmm.
am who I am. So my protection isn't built out of fear. It's built
No.
out of confidence
Right.
because it take a bunch of them, if
Mm,
they really want to. But the thing is, and as Breaking Dawn has attested, after a while they get tired. Now, here's something
yeah.
about why
Yes.
is the subroutine important.
Mm,
You create a subroutine in your own brain that pictures your shield so that all you have to do is say shield on, and your brain will know, whoop, kick in, shield
mm,
on, so that you may be in a situation that is not necessarily dangerous, but you don't know anybody or it's different. So you want
right.
to have your sensors on just just so that you can be aware if there's something there. And
Mm-hmm,
not that there is, but you
mm-hmm.
want to have you so it's sort of like listening in on sonar. It's like
Yeah.
bing,
Yeah.
ding. And then if it
I've
hits
had to
something, it
do
goes
that.
ba-ding, ba-ding, ba-ding. Oh, whoop, entity over here. Breaking Dawn saying, "Yep, she had an incident too like that."
I've had to do that since I was a teenager.
She's had to do that since she was a teenager. And in many ways, so have I. But in some of the stuff and a lot of my brain damage has kind of screwed up my what I used to think straight years ago after having had brain damage.
Mm.
I've had to recreate it, and I'm still in the process of recreating. I got Bob the Builder guys in my brain going in there, patching stuff up, still reconnecting neurons and things. And so, some of the things that were lost to me that I bitched about several years ago, I'm slowly gaining them back. And I can't force it, but it's slowly happening. It has to gradually change. I have to gradually. I still have episodes, but the thing is that my brain and my body know. I don't have to tell it out loud anymore. That if certain circumstances, um, it's a warning light, if you will. Your car's overheating, so the light comes on and says high temperature, or your oil light comes on, which is so consider it that, but also program yourself to, and it's very simple. Just envision yourself shielded with light. Pick your color. I don't care. White works really good. Other
I envision my love creator and myself and people of like mind and other people, the universe. That's
right.
what I envisioned for my shield of protection.
Well, everybody can has their own picture. Now,
Mm-hmm.
my shield incorporates that, and I think it's because it's a subroutine.
Yeah.
My brain used to think about it out loud, where now it's a subroutine. I do it without thinking,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm doing it because I've learned it, and it has become a subroutine in my brain if I choose to bring it back out. What are memories? They're subroutines.
Yeah.
You hit a button and a little video plays of wherever you were, or the memory comes out. It's basically a subroutine of the brain.
Yeah.
So, um, oh well, and this has nothing to do with the Matrix. Don't even try to go there.
No, that's from within.
Right. Now, the brains and the neurons and everything, it's very electrical and very chemical at the same time. That's why certain
And
chemicals
magnetic, isn't it?
and magnetic, but
Yeah.
everything, all kinds of stuff affect the brain and the brain waves. But
Mm-hmm.
with that said, though, um, focus on something. If you can't figure out what to work on, think lightness, darkness, and which do you wish to be, a candle or not? And
Mm-hmm.
so I just think candle in the wind, candle. No, I actually think of a Bible verse where if you wish to light up a room, do you put the candle under a bushel basket or on
Mm-hmm.
top of it? So I simply envision a candle burning and that light in the darkness that goes out all around. I am that light. And but it is made up of love for the creator, for Mother Earth, because that's who I am.
Yeah.
So because I am this person that is, dedicated to Mother Earth and all these things, I don't have to say it.
I
It is
envision
me.
I envision balance.
You envision what?
Balance. Like
Balance.
the gray.
But see, now that's different for protection, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For protection, stick with one simple thing. Because if you get it too complicated, especially if you're new at this,
Oh well.
now the balance of energies,
Yeah.
I understand that. But see, let's not overcomplicate things too soon. If you're new to this, you've got to stick with a light. I'm surrounded by this light. I am the light.
Yeah.
And that's all you really need.
You are the light.
And
Yeah, that's
believe
true.
it, understand it, and that is your protection. And so you can call upon the angels. You can call it if you really think you're in, but have confidence in yourself that maybe if you're in a plastic bubble, then and you're confident in your energy, you don't want to go pick a fight with these negatives energies, but you that you cannot be affected by them if they're around you. You can
Mm.
just choose to ignore them. And by doing so, they get it. They get it. They get it. They get it. You don't have to tell them to go away. Now,
Mm.
in my experience, and boy, spirit taught me a lot. That kicked my ass. They told me, they said, what you do, Hawkeye, is invoke the positive. So when I'm doing a ceremony, I ask the beings around me,
Mm.
any beings, any positive beings that are in the area, you are welcome to join me in my ceremony, which is about peace and love and harmony to the earth. So I
Mm.
state my intentions right off the bat.
Mm.
So, and that's what you do every day. State your intentions to the universe. But then I say, and any beings who are on the fence, who maybe have done some bad things, but would rather be turned to the light, you are welcome as well if you behave yourself. And all other beings simply aren't welcome. That's all. I don't tell them to go away. I just say, you ain't welcome. You're not invited to the party. Now, they can still crash it, they can still try to create havoc, but they're not invited. So rather than want to do battle with them or be confrontational, it's much easier if you consider, sorry, this party is private. And you don't have to put up your fist. But if you know an entity is going to attack you, the best thing to do is not necessarily fight, but repel. If somebody's going to hit you, instead of taking the blow, you deflect it. There was an old Chinese or Japanese kung fu master, and he was in his like 90s, and these young guys would come and attack him. I've spoke about this before, but they'd come and they would attack him, and he would use their energy and simply deflect him. They'd go flying out in the air, he'd throw them to the ground, and he never budged. He might have took one, maybe two steps back, but he basically, he was never affected because he used just opposing energy, not to stop them but to deflect it. And so we have that same within us. Instead of trying to fight them, which requires a whole different set of, our defenses are up, and yep, we're in defense mode. But if we attack, then we have to we enter a different modality altogether. Create a subroutine in your own self through meditation, through self hypnosis, and those two do work absolutely. And but the thing is that when you want to grab that cigarette or another beer or another Pepsi, for God's sakes, grab another plastic bottle, for goodness sakes, please put them down. But so folks would understand that somehow that subroutine would run in their brain. But the next part then is you have to act on it. If you don't act on what you've already sort of pre-programmed in yourself, like I want to quit smoking, well then don't buy another pack of cigarettes. Don't, I mean, you got to say no at some point, or you have to say yes at some point, depending on what it is you're trying. Yes, I will do better in listening to people, or yes, I will become more aware of my surroundings, or yes, I will become more loving to, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? So it's not everything is a no when when you meditate and when you do the hypnotic suggestion. But it's very important to stick with one subject per session. Smoking, one session. Drinking, one session. Or reading, single session. And now for reading, it might be that there are certain things like I was 250 pounds at one time. I'm about 170 ish right now. So when people say, "Well, you don't know what it's like to be overweight," oh yes, hell I do. But the thing is that though I had to say at some point, no, you can't go back for seconds. No, you've had enough. So I can implant the thought in my brain, but if I don't act on it, then so I picked on one item at a time. I picked on candy bars. Then I picked on that. So I picked on a thing, not everything. I picked on one thing. So, okay, I cut my candy bar back. I was worked in the plant. We'd all go into the break room. I love certain candy bars. I'd get me an almond joy. Yum, 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 yum. But I was realizing no, that's too much sugar. I'm trying to lose weight, and so I can do without that candy bar. Yeah, it was hard, absolutely, but you have to say no and be comfortable with your decision. Well, I don't know. I could have ate it. No, you can't. Say no. If you've made the personal agreement with yourself to break that trust, boy. So when you go into the hypnosis state and you're putting these thoughts in there because you want them, then the next thing is you got to act on them. And the same thing with spirituality. If you get a download from creator and it's explaining something to you and you just kind of like, well, don't use it or don't work on it or don't follow the suggestion, or hey, you should go over here, and you decide to go pooey, and you go back over here. It's like going back to the battered spouse syndrome. You go back into the situation because you're used to it. No, that's a subroutine. These are programs, and they can be shut off. You can write a subroutine that when a subroutine starts to run, you go, not you, nuh-uh, talk to the hand. But, talk to the hand. When a thought comes in and something, talk to the hand. That's your filter. And there are things in, other realms and places in the universe. And if you trust your spirit guide, your guardian angel, if you trust that and the firewall that you establish between you, I mean, my Breaking Dawn has conversations with her higher self. I do too. And we agree, like, don't, Hawkeye, don't do that. Okay. Or Hawkeye, you should do that. Like this video right now, getting kicked in the shins. Now, that is metaphorically speaking, but actually, there are sometimes my ankle really does hurt. Um, but so I hope you understand what I'm trying to get across here. Take control of yourself, and it does start within. There's so much that is inside us because we've already recorded it. And we need to go tinkering around. And this isn't like trying to go into dark corners. No, this isn't the same thing. This is looking for tools you may have already learned and forgot. You flipped the light switch off in the room over there, and it was a really good idea, and it was a really something that was important, but life and this and that and the other thing, and somebody went by and flipped the light switch off, and you don't see that memory over there. It's because it hasn't been used. But once you allow yourself to go, I want this subroutine to run. What? Yeah, you make the conscious effort and say, I'm going to put a tag on this. All right. And say, when I ask, this subroutine is going to run consciously because there's stuff in there that I want to use, or, part of the conversation, whatever it might be. So understand that you have, if you want to say power, fine. It's already in us. It's learning how to use it. And start with the simple stuff. Start with one item you want to change. Meditate on it and say, but like I said before, if you don't act on it out of the meditation state, what good's it going to do? So you have to honor yourself. Oh, ho, 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 ho. You have to honor yourself and honor your own spirit and your soul. Because if you break the contract that you made in your little subroutine, I'm going to cut back on cigarettes. I'm going to cut back on candy. I'm going to cut back on cussing. I'm going to cut back on whatever.
Or not believing yourself.
Or not believing yourself. Whatever it is that you're meditating on, because you either want to stop a negative or encourage a positive. So in speaking in the positive to yourself, which is important, you don't tell yourself, don't do that anymore. You say, stop doing that.
Mm.
What? Stop isn't a negative. It means stop.
Yeah.
Where don't means, woo, you don't. Uh-uh. Stop means stop, you know? Where don't means beware and all. There's all these connotations with don't.
Mm.
But if you say, I wish to stop this behavior,
Mm.
that's a positive statement. Even though stop means to halt. But we can't, the reason there are stop signs is so we don't crash into each other. So there are things within us that may be crashing into each other, and those are the items we need to fix within us.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So, but if you break your own trust, if you break your own promise,
Mm.
that's why people are internally feeling so crappy. Well, I don't know. I tried this. Did you follow through on what you already promised yourself? Did you go back in and check some of the rooms? Maybe there's a light switch that, you know, maybe there's a subroutine that needs to run more often, like to be more positive, or do you, whatever it may be in that you wish to use.
Mm.
So, in staying in the positive, you say, okay, brain, instead of saying, don't do this, if it's an if and kind of sort of um, programming. So if this happens,
Mm.
then do this. Okay. And I was doing this sign and then an arrow because there's like a greater than or less than. But if this condition exists, if the number is 12, then do this in whatever the program that's running. And however you wrote it in basic or whatever, C plus plus. I've never written in that, but I understand the basics. So, but in the subroutine, understand it like, okay, so I wish to put these positive things in there to stop a negative behavior. But you do it with a positive attitude. You do it with saying, I wish to be a better person and stop this behavior.
That's what I did.
That's what she did. You can see her over here in the corner. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but with that said, so it's not a negative. It's a positive statement. If you say, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't like this behavior, I don't, stay out of that. So you can tell yourself, don't do something by being positive and saying, let's stop this behavior. Every time I start feeling this way, I've got a little trigger thingy that's going to say, hang on, stop, whoa, let me back up here before I start losing my cool here.
Mm-hmm.
This is a warning, whoa. But I've pre programmed it. I've said, wait a minute, when these certain conditions appear, then I'm going to step back instead of opening my big mouth and putting my foot in it. I'm going to step back and go,
Mm.
that's the subroutine because I used to stick. I had foot and mouth disease. Trust me. So, but anyway, so I hope this makes sense. And I'm going to keep it. It's an hour. Let me go back through some of
And you
your
can do that with addictions. You can do that with
anything
anything. Behaviors that you do that you don't like.
or behaviors you want to encourage. You want to learn Spanish? Then say,
Yeah.
if you say, oh my God, I can't learn Spanish. It's so freaking tough. You're programming your brain to not learn.
Mm.
So then you got to go back in. I have trouble with foreign languages. But I absolutely think it was a head bonk thing. But so this is about everything. You wish to do something better. You wish to get rid of a behavior. It's not about getting rid of things or only for protection. It's for planning for tomorrow. It's setting in my head. Like today, I told myself yesterday, and that I was going to collect some firewood and split it. I did so. Not a bunch, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I did achieve part of my goal today that I set up yesterday. So I'm telling my self conscious, look, we need to go, you know, split some more wood, bring it to the house because it's going to be cold, and um, this needs to be done. But that was a subroutine. But I thought about it yesterday. Now I'll be thinking whatever I need for tomorrow. Not that it's all that complicated, but that is what we set up. We set up to fail, or we set ourselves up to accomplish something. Oh God, tomorrow's going to be horrible. Well, hell yeah, you just convinced your brain that it is. If something's going to be tough, you say, well, tomorrow's going to be challenging.
Challenging. An adventure.
Yeah, well, and it might be a shitty adventure or a shitty challenge, but the thing is though it may be necessary lesson that you have to learn at some point. Sometimes we just get caught up in stuff that is like, well, let me get through it, and then we'll reconvene on the other side. But anyway, so with that said, let me go. I want to see who's on and give kudos to y'all hanging out. Selwyn, the crypto Jews even radiated, gassed me unconscious while I was in a police cell at Layton police station. Amongst other stuff, I awoke with bigger ear holes. Interesting. Selwyn says, look, David, now how the hell can one protect themselves from an entity placed next door whilst put unconscious by the psychopaths? No one ever explained how to ward off psychic attack whilst asleep. The inhuman psychopathic Western military don't attack ESP whilst I'm unconscious for nothing.
That's very true.
Um, there are safeguards that are put there. How do I put this? I can still get my butt kicked in the spirit realm, but I could get my butt kicked if I go in the wrong neighborhood. Now, I'm not asking for the neighborhood weirdos to show up at my house. Sometimes they just have, but I protect myself from where my location is and certain things. So the best thing we can do is protect our souls, because they may, and they do, and I can't answer that for you, Selwyn, personally, but I know that I was under a lot of um, pharmaceuticals, under doctors' cares, psychiatric and otherwise, and them folks tried to make me batshit crazy. They did, actually. Threw me in the hospital, in a mental hospital, all the whole 9 yards, and I wasn't one that was crazy. Now, the drugs they gave me made my behavior seem like I was nuts. That part is true. But was I really nuts? No, it was my mind trying to get back its own sanity, and in my struggle, in my mind screaming at me to stop this behavior and do something different, it came across as anger and forceful, and those folks will tie you up in a heartbeat if you assume any violent position, or anger. Calm down, Mr. No. Well, quit giving me these god dog drugs. Why don't we? Can we have just a therapy session? You want to knock me out with all these drugs, and you want to do this to me and that to me? What? Oh, and it's for my own good? Are you serious? No, it wasn't. And I'm still recovering from their abuse. Of course, now I took the pills, but in that watching, trying to understand my own brain, I went to mental health because I wanted to be, because of the many head bangs, I wanted to get my brain back. And I figured a professional would help me. Well, there were a few good ones, but mostly crap. And everything was about meds. So when I didn't want to take the medicines, they didn't want to give me counseling. So then I told them all to go puck off. I said that with a P, hockey sticks. But to the point, though, about this, though, in that If somebody's like drugged you and knocked you out, well, the best thing you can do is just do soul protection. Never, always trust that you will never give up your soul. Now you can, but if you choose not to,
Exactly.
they can't get it. You
Exactly.
must give it up. So if
Yeah.
you just in your prayers, when you say, I confirm that I am an entity of this universe and I have the right to exist and I wish no harm on anyone else, and may my light shine through to the next, through the next day, kind of thing. But to the point though, can I control somebody breaking in my house and putting me asleep and taking me off in a spaceship? No. What can I do about that? Nothing. But when I get back here, then I make my own choices. I can say, well, that was effed up.
Mm.
Wow, that was weird. Feel like I've been dropped from, above the house, landed on the, boom. Oh, that shit, that hurt.
Yeah.
But with that said though, it's what I do when I get back here that matters. Other people, MK Ultra or something now, could something trigger you? Yes. Unbeknownst to you, yes. But what can do is tell yourself, if anything like that has happened,
Mm.
I want a warning.
Mm.
If I get triggered for any reason that I'm not aware of, I want blue and red lights to flash in my eyeballs,
For
and
me, it's
and
songs.
and the you know danger, Will Robinson, danger, danger. That's what I want. So, in case,
Mm.
that's the best way that you can do under the circumstances. Now, those are extreme circumstances out on the edge, and I know they do exist.
Mm.
But also to the point, if somebody's doing something unwilling to us, then we're not responsible for the things that we unwillingly do.
Mm-hmm.
Did they get your soul?
No.
And that's the key. They may control your mind, they may control some of your habits, but did they get your soul? And if the answer, and always the answer should be no.
Mm-hmm.
But now there are those people I've seen. I can tell they've sold out to the other side.
Mm.
Now they may not be raping, maiming, and pillaging and killing, but they're working for the other side because of greed.
Mm.
And if you're a greedy SOB, then you're working for the other side.
Yeah.
Period.
Period.
But anyway, but what's this have to do with subroutines? All of it, because it's all programming to each and every one of us, and they're in different levels. And you got to understand, even if you fell asleep during the movie, your brain still heard it. It may not have watched the movie, but it still heard it.
Mm-hmm.
So those things have been recorded. They're in our brains. They're in us, and it, whether it's on purpose or not doesn't matter. But we can change that programming from our reality, at least up to a point. Now, if you've been snatched and grabbed and pumped full of crap, that's a harder scenario.
That's
And
for
all I
sure.
can do is say we'll send out prayers to each and every one of us, because at some point we're all sort of susceptible to that.
Yeah.
But um, And Spirit Guy said, if you find yourself in a situation like that, it may be that you need to get the F out of where your location is and move to a different location.
Mm.
To whoever that's meant for, or everybody that it's meant for. If you find yourself in a situation, it sometimes the only way to remedy the situation is to get out.
Get
Breaking
out of the
Dawn,
house.
I had to go get her because it was like it was an angel message, and I discussed it with y'all before,
Yeah.
not at great lengths, but enough for you to understand. I had to go down and get her,
Mm.
not necessarily whether I liked to or not. That wasn't it. It was important as one being to another, and that the situation had become critical mass,
Oh, that's for
and I needed to go down there and bring her up here, at least to recuperate. There is no
sure.
time limit. we just live day to day kind of thing.
Yep.
Um, so if somebody says, "Well, what's your future?" Get up tomorrow, you know, go back, camping again when the weather is a little
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
get back on the river again. What's your objective? Have a good day tomorrow. Come and chat with you friends and talk about some of these subjects.
Go
But what,
ahead.
but what the idea though, trying to stay on topic, the idea though that the subroutines though, we don't know, and we need to go check ourselves before we go down any more rabbit holes anyplace else.
Mm.
We need to be the bear and hibernate on thoughts
Mm.
without trying to figure out if something else is coming in. Or look,
Mm.
we're all being affected by these solar storms. About 12 hours ago, there was a really high uh, flux in the Schumann resonance,
Yeah.
pretty strong.
Yeah.
But we're out of it now in sort of we're in a lull right now. So there are some of us where we're like, last night I was feeling like I feel like I'm being twisted like a dish rag, and sometimes clockwise and sometimes counterclockwise. And I mean, I'm literally sitting here in the chair going, "Son of a bitch, what's going on?"
Mm.
And so there's twisties and thingies going on in the universe. All these energies coming in from the sun and the thingy. It's all happen. It's all upon us. Okay.
Mm.
But what we need to understand is don't freak out. I haven't mentioned this in a while, but I'm kind of hoping that y'all figured it out by now. When these energy waves and things affect us, we need to be sitting in our inner tube on the ocean with the waves. You
Mhm.
can't sink if you're in an inner tube. You ain't going to sink. You might get tossed and turned and wet,
Right.
but you're not going to sink if you stay in that inner tube. You're not.
Mhm.
But so if you consider yourself, I'm in an inner tube. So if things get a little funky for me, I just think about floating.
Mhm.
I'm floating. The energy waves. Well, that was a high one. Woo hoo hoo. What comes after a big wave? The valley behind it. Two woomph. And you feel like you just shoom, dropped, you know, almost like jumping off a cliff, into a swimming hole. You go, whoa, shoom. And that's that sudden drop. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, my friends, understand it really is important. Take control over it. I did a video about the conscious subconscious. This is kind of right along in there with the subroutines. And so I create the subroutines to help me do something better, which means I wish to keep my light stronger. So there's a subroutine. So I don't always have to say it, but it's because of who I have become as far as being spiritual every day and staying out of areas that will bring my energy down. It's always there. It's always on. So these subroutines are running in the background. I'm sitting here talking to you, but unless I become aware of it, I don't know that my heart's beating. I can't feel my heartbeat because I'm talking to y'all. But in the grand scheme of things, when you can speak to someone and feel your heartbeat, which is an unconscious bodily function, when you can hear your heartbeat while you're speaking
Mhm.
and be able to um, do both at the same time, well, that does happen when we get excited. That does happen when we're running and our heartbeat. But I mean, when if I'm just sitting here with you, or you're sitting with family, whatever, and you wish to try this, calm yourself and hear your heartbeat while you're listening to people in the room or having conversation. It's your own personal little test. But that's one of the ways you can learn how to access your subconscious consciously, how to use that power, which is in every single one of us. And because my energy is connected to the quantum through my spirit guide, it's sort of like a teletype operator. There's listening up there. I worked in the radio industry for years, and we'd get stuff over the wire. And it was literally, I've got teletype papers. We used to have to go change it out. You'd go tear off the news and read it. It was script, right? And you'd read it off and the AP wire says, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, but anyway, so sometimes sometimes these things that we create within us are just nothing more than that. It's little text that comes in, and but there's a story there. There may be information, it may be instructions, it may be a picture included, so but it's up to you to discern whether or not it's good or bad by using your higher self. And your higher self, if you trust it, if you know that you're confident, then then that's how you protect yourself. Even if you're asleep and drugged by somebody else. And I've been drugged by other people, unbeknownst to myself. I
I have to.
don't like it. Woke up in a situation that was not appropriate,
Yep.
um, and it was not of my doing. Kind of, sort of got roofied, if you will. You know what I mean? So um, the thing is, don't go there anymore. Don't hang out with those kind of So it's not going to happen again, at least in those circumstances, because I removed myself from the circumstance. So my point earlier about sometimes you have to take yourself out of something to actually get away from it. So if you're in a situation, the only answer might not to run, but to start over, to reestablish yourself. And it could mean quitting a church and going to another one. It could mean getting a divorce and moving out of the house. It could mean that you're in a neighborhood and you need to get the F out of that neighborhood. If somebody, listen, I don't have any trouble down here, but if I lived in town and my neighborhood was such that there was always crap going on, I would say, the hell with this. This is my home and I'm going to protect it. Screw that. I'm moving to a neighborhood that doesn't have as much crime. I'm sorry. Sometimes we have to make difficult decisions. And now, thank goodness I don't have to, but about that. But if I lived in town, if that had been my choice all those years back, I'd be moving right now going, no, can't stay in this neighborhood. There was a shooting and a drive-by shooting the other day in Moultrie. Breaking Dawn and I were like a block away from where it happened, not at the same time, but we were right there in that neighborhood. So it's like, and it used to be a really nice neighborhood. So it's like, what's happened to this world where even in small town America, people are driving by and taking pot shots in houses, you know? So, well, what's the best thing to do? Then don't be move out of the neighborhood if you have to. But this is my home, and well. Then okay. Then if you get shot, then all right. If you want to live being paranoid all the time, okay. If you got 14 chains and locks and stuff on your house, okay. But, I can't live in fear like that. Not gonna. But what and I've had my choice to live other places, but that I've made my choice to live here. So I pre-thought this out where other people are like, well, I wish I'd have thought about this years ago. I did. I thought about it way back when and made certain choices that led me to my house being paid for, my land being paid for, and all I got to do is pay taxes/rent. Um, hey, Lori, how are you? But anyway, with all of this said, the bottom line is, folks, if you listen this far in, I love you while I do. Regardless if you listen this far in, I
I
love you
do.
anyway. And so does Breaking Dawn. She's over there bringing some wood in at the back door. Um, Understand, you can take control, at least up to the point of you're awake, you're conscious, you're meditating. If somebody's drugging and stuff, now this is not necessarily in that Selwyn. But to the point, though, with the things that we know and the things that we've learned, then we use them to our benefit. Being fearful, though, is one thing we need to stay off of, because those beings out there can smell fear. OMG. So, whether or not whether or not you feel that you can go to battle with them, you can be certain that you can defend yourself against them, against them. So be confident in that. Be confident with your soul. Even if they kill this body, they don't have my soul. Oh, but I died. Did you? Well, this body did. But did they get my soul? And the answer is hell no. So do you have you I'm sure you all have made that decision. Hell no, they ain't getting my soul. They can beat me up, they can crucify me, but they ain't getting my soul. Period. So that's a decision that is not negotiable under any circumstances, regardless of what the F they do to me or make me do. Um, or try to make me do. But if I program my own self and say, if they try to make me to do something stupid like go postal, I'm not going to do it. If they try to make me, because I'm in control of my brain, they may have buried something deep in my brain, but I'm going to be smart enough to go, whoa, red lights, ding, ding, ding. So if I get into a situation, I may be able to regain control and say no to whatever it may be. So, and Breaking Dawn's going, yep, she's agreeing with it. Yeah, she goes upstairs. But anyway, my friends, let me go through some of your comments a little bit. Um, Aaron, hi. You're very welcome. Um, Aaron Johnson, thank you very much. David and Don, struggling greatly the last few days and needed to be reminded of my power. Blessings to all. Sowen, did anyone know the Talmud and Chabad say autistics have special souls? Selwyn, we all have special souls. But I've worked with autistic children and also with blind folk who were quote mentally retarded, and they had powers and senses. They taught me about my third eye. Quote, retarded blind children taught me how to walk around in the dark and how to see without my eyes. So we're all special. We just put things in different classifications, autistic, blah, 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 blah. But trust me, every one of us is special. That's one of the things. Autistic children are wired different. I have an autistic friend of mine down in Tampa. They have a association, blah, 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 blah. But to the point, though, there are certain things they cannot function with or have difficulty functioning with. We have to understand that there's two layers to this. But we all have that. We are all multi layered and sort of multidimensional. But to the point, um, yeah, there's psychopathic Borg. I would agree with you there. So, and I was born on Bancroft Road, though I grew up in another bit of Bethnal. What's GRN? Germany? I'm not sure, Selwyn. Ian, yeah, you may have actually moved into a coven of bad folk, or at least negative energy. But Big Little Mew, how are you? Let's float into faith. Absolutely. The inner tube is faith. That's a very good point. Um, Millie Cow and Big Little Mew. Lori says you have to declare yourself a sovereign being, light protection yourself, family, home, car, etc. But here's the thing: um, the sovereign being saying it is one thing. If you believe it, you don't have to say it. Does that make sense? Now I know there are people out there now. Now our words do, and our intent is important. But I realized there was a period a couple of years ago where it's like I had to say it all the time to make sure that I got it. And then when I understood and reached my aha moment of I have to believe in myself and the faith within myself 100.1%, I didn't need to say it all the time because I am sovereign. And by actually being sovereign, I emanate my sovereignty. So saying it is to remind yourself that you are. If you believe that you are, saying it reinforces it. But there are people out there who are saying it because they're afraid. I have to remind myself I'm a sovereign being. Do you? It's a subroutine. That's why this video is important. To repeat things over and over and over again is okay. The mantra is good. It gives you the strength and the energy and the intent of those words over again. It's like saying a prayer over again or whatever. That's okay. But when you believe, when you know 100.1% that you are a sovereign being, in a way, the words become mute because you exude it. Any entity that comes near you is going to go, that some bitch is a sovereign being. Whoops. The entities like to pick on the weaker ones. They don't really want to fight. They just want to move right in. Not that they won't. But there are those, if somebody's being really wishy-washy and crazy, they're going to go are they going to go against somebody with a 12-gauge shotgun, namely me, versus somebody that doesn't even have a slingshot? You know, uh, who are they going to pick on? That guy, not me. They're going to go, you better be staying your, pointing at me. But the thing is, though, that we have control over it. That's the big secret all these movie stars and folks talk about. When you understand these basic things, and yeah, gotta believe 100.1%. Otherwise, it's just like, and I went for many years without it, folks. So I'm telling you, warning you, advising you, believe in yourself. You gotta and wipe out that fear because it saps your energy whether you actually understand that it is or not. Um, Gerald, I'm just going back up through here to see who else was on. Hong Kong Fooey. I like that, Gerald. I used to watch Hong Kong Fooey and all those old cartoons. I loved it. Um, okay, I don't think I missed anybody. All right, I'm going back down to the bottom of the. Hi, son. Janet, is that way? No, Gerald. That's Gerald. Sorry. Scatman Struthers. Yep, absolutely. That's scatting. Um, Selman says they harvest my radiated and traumatized blood. Um, all I can do is pray for you, my friend, and hope that things will get better. Um, Millie Cow says it seems that sometimes you have to choose to believe before you can just know. That's very well put. Because the faith has to come. If because if you still have doubts, and mine were very subtle doubts, but because I had doubts, I couldn't understand the whole thing because I was still having the doubts. The doubts were holding me back from information I already had, but from being able to understand it fully because I didn't believe 100.1%. And it's in the belief. Now I'm not talking about, here's a rock, we're gonna worship this rock. No. I'm talking about yourself. Believe in yourself. Understand that you are part of this universe. Basic, simple things, and have faith that it's there and that it is true because you are who you are. and you're seeking other knowledge. So you must be on a better path than other folks that don't give a crap. So, and to hell with what the rest of them think. What's more important, your soul or theirs that doesn't want to have their soul saved? They would rather go to church and talk about saving souls when actually, if we sit down and ask them, you know, they're in a way they're not even saving themselves because they're narrowing down. The only way to get to heaven is through Jesus. Sorry, guys, it's more than that. He is one of the ways. But those folks who are convinced that's the only way, like the Catholics, I'm sorry, folks. There's more to the grand scheme of this universe than what the Catholics, religions. I'm just going to put it that way. And I've had that discussion in another chat thingy, but it is important because that's part of the subconscious that they've taught us. If we've ever listened to a preacher, ever, then that thing has been recorded in our brain. We have doubts about the coming of Jesus. He's going to come in on a. If we've ever heard, then there has been a seed planted in our brains that could manifest and grow, or and turn into a subroutine. How about that? Sort of like a virus. Something else comes along and it goes, I'm going to go along this belief. And then you believe that that's the only way that it can happen. When in reality, there's a lot of different ways, but you need to stay in the positive lane. That's basically, don't go against the traffic, for goodness sakes. If you see oncoming traffic, stay in your lane. There are people, well, I don't know, I'm going to get there faster. I want to go around it. Well, you just crossed over the center line and you just negated your contract. So there are a lot of physical things we can look at, and believing in yourself, I absolutely agree with that. Is that because I had the knowledge, but if I didn't believe that it all could be true, then how could I honestly say that I understood the knowledge that I had? It goes hand in hand. But if you don't have that belief right, if you don't have that faith, the rest of it's going to lag behind. It may be right there at your fingertips, but you don't believe it enough to understand it. That was my part. That was my problem. And I know other people who are having the same problem. Trust yourself, and don't worry about what somebody else is going to say about what you believe or don't believe. If that's the situation, then keep your mouth shut about it. You have the choice to instigate an argument or to keep your bloody mouth shut if that's appropriate. So, some I know there are some folks that I know, well, me and this guy argued about this the other day. Well, did you start it? Well, I told him some things. Well, then there you go. You participated. You could have just said, you could have listened to the person and said, well, that's interesting, and not have it a discussion. But if you chose to interact with somebody and it turned into an argument, then shame on you because you had the choice ahead of time. So, but when you have faith in yourself, you will notice these things ahead of time and go, you know what? I would have argued with this person before. I would have actually went in there and kind of went word to word with this guy. And now I understand the guy's a blooming idiot and he's just spouting off something. But if I don't give him a reaction, what's that going to do to him? So instead of getting pissed off and want to argue with the person and go, well, I think your theories are crap. No, I just sit back and go, well, that's interesting. And they go, what? Well, and then I say, well, there are a lot of theories out there, and yours is one of them. What? You mean you're not going to fight me about this? Nope. What? Well, you believe what you want to, and in my reality, it's different, but go ahead. What? You're not going to fight with me? No. Shit. So then the air, the big gas bag just goes, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no fight if there ain't no stuff. You know, it takes two to tango. You can go out there on the dance floor and boogie all you want to, but if you're going to tango, you need a partner, just saying. But anyway, you get what I'm talking about. Lori, I wasn't picking on you about what you said earlier about the sovereignty thing. I think it is important that My point about myself is I know I'm sovereign. I still say it, but not near as often as I used to because now I believe it. But I still find that it's important. But my point is when you understand this 100.1%, you kind of understand, well, I'm saying it, but actually I kind of get this thing that if I am it, I don't have to say it. Um It's like when you know a song and you've learned it. If you played guitar and you've played the song many times, when you do that song, you can pick up a guitar and you can go right into that song. You know it, and it might not be a good song, but it's not how well you are, but you know it for you, how good you are, or a piece on a piano or something. Why I'm using music, I don't know about, but so there's an understanding. You know the song. That's what I'm talking about. You know how to do this. You know how to change oil in your car. You know how to do certain things. And somebody can argue with you and go, well, that's not how you take off the oil filter. And you can argue about, well, this one, that one, blah, blah, blah. But you know how to change filter on your car. I'm giving you an example of something in the 3D world that kind of makes sense about this. But when you understand, I'm confident I can change the spark plugs in my car. Well, there's a knowledge that just gives you a confidence. I can fix my own car. I can change my own oil. I can change my own tire. I can, that's the confidence. So when you believe 100.1% that you can do it, or have faith in yourself, like that you can change a tire, then the knowledge, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. If you're afraid of not knowing how to do something, then learn how to do it. That's what you do. All right. Millie Cow says, there are things I believe yet still have doubts sometimes. When I notice doubt, fear, I remind myself of faith. Eventually, the fear subsides. Very good. Now, here's one thing to all of you, Millie Cow, since you put that out there, blame it on you right now. Um, but the thing is that we've got to keep fear out of it. And whatever it is that's out there, we just have to have faith in ourselves. We don't have to understand it to know that we got it. Because knowing how to change oil in one car means that you might help somebody learn how to change oil in a completely different model car, but it's still changing the oil. So I can't think of anything right now else that really relates. But in that, it's the knowledge that, well, I've changed oil in one. I think I could probably do it with this one. It's got a drain plug, it's got a filter. I think I could manage, depending on make and model. But to the point though, so it's that knowledge of, well, I can do it on a Ford. Can I do it on a Chrysler? Can I do it on a big truck? Changing oil, that is. So, but the thing is so knowledge of one thing and being confident gives you the confidence to try these other things that are similarly related. In the spirit realm, it's the same way. When you reach a confidence level on just a basic level, it gives you the platform to go, well, I can, that looks good over there. And so having faith that it's there, it will manifest itself when it needs to. The understanding of, because there's oh, trust me, there's shit I still don't get. I mean, it comes in all the time, and I just sit back and go, well, that's interesting. We'll see how that turns out, and put it in a little subroutine folder in the part of my brain and go, we'll keep that for later on in case something happens about this. But to that point though, um, it's the understanding that I have faith in myself that I may not understand what that message means or what this knowing means right now, but I have faith that when it needs to be understood, I will understand it at a future date. You have to have faith. Is it a blind faith? No, it's a confidence. So when you have confidence in yourself and your own, it doesn't matter if you can dog paddle to swim. but you don't sink, then you have achieved something that other people who don't know how to swim have achieved. You didn't sink. Okay. When you learn how to float, which I cannot do, I mean, I sink like a rock. I got to keep treading water. But I've got a friend of mine that she can literally float standing up. It's the creepiest thing. Um, but anyway, but so there are people who can do things very easily, and there are things that folks like me who I can't float. I'm too bony and dense, I guess. And um, um, I was going to say full of crap, but crap floats. So that should help me float. And if I was full of hot air, that would help me float. So it must be something else. I'm picking on myself here, y'all. But with that said, though, um, look at the situation. If I didn't have faith that tomorrow I'm going to wake up and that I will do something tomorrow, or that later on tonight when it gets cold, I have faith that I'm going to go outside and get some firewood and we're going to start a fire. We're going to be warm this evening. I got to have, I mean, the faith is in our abilities. So yeah, I feel beat up after cutting firewood the last couple of days, but I have the faith that I'm still going to be able to, crawl my ass out there and bring in enough wood to stay warm tonight. I'm confident of that. I'm also probably a little confident that I'm going to be sore as hell after doing it, but that's okay. I'm going to take it with the territory. So you can't if you're going to you can't if you're going to learn how to swim, you got to get wet. But you got to have the faith that everybody see. If nobody else knew how to swim, and you were the only one, well, that would be different. You could kind of say, I don't know if this shit's going to work. But if everybody else is swimming and having a good time and you're venturing out there and this is sort of new to you got to have the confidence that you can move your arms and stay afloat and not drown. And once you get that, and once you understand that the water is just water, and and I can move around and float and do different things and hold my breath and and not drown, all of a sudden water isn't so scary anymore. Hmm. How about that? Well, then water can become your friend. But if you didn't have faith in it within your own self to be able to paddle to swim, it takes practice. So in the spirit world and all that. So, but the point is confidence. Do you have faith in yourself? It ain't about religion. It ain't about believing whether or not there's a creator. Do you believe yourself? And these common, actually, they make really good sense when you sit down and look at them from a shaman's point of view versus someone who's too analytical with the scientific and the skepticism and the thing. You got to say, well, wait a minute, just because I don't see those orbs, some bits they showed up on a picture. I took pictures of something I couldn't see. Do I believe it or do I discount it? And then I started speaking to the beings. And they spoke to me the last time and said, cut it out, enough pictures. And they made the battery go dead.
I heard them too.
And she heard them too, says Dawn. So, but to that point, though, see, I have learned through my own lifestyle, life path style, and through my own life path that these things exist to me. So that helps me to have faith in these other realms. And so I share them with you because, dude, some of this stuff is very real. And if you're not paying attention, but anyway, so, but it's not to like beat you up over it. It's these things are real. Have faith in yourself, push yourself out there a little more because no pain, no gain. You can hold a book all day long, but until you open the pages and read it, it's just a book. The knowledge in it must be read and must be discerned. But I've got a dictionary and waving it about, or I've got a Bible and I'm waving it about. And do I know every word? No. Do I know the context? No. Do I know every word in the dictionary that I'm waving around? No. Do I know everything about the spiritual realm? Oh, hell no. But I do know these basic things and I'm still learning. That's why shaman in training. My friends, we're all shamans in training. I love you all. I do. Thank you for your conversation and your input and your ability to discern things for yourself. Y'all got great ideas. You really do. That's why I read them out. But I thought, I, well, I don't. I was going to say um, if it's really stupid, I wouldn't really be. Millie Cow says meditation is like peeling back the layers of the mind, better connect with the light within. Absolutely. And like an onion, like a thingy, but however you want to look at it. But yes, even says it starts with taking responsibility for one's own actions. Yes. Lordy agrees. Ian says, or as the kids say, your own shit. Right. Um, Aquaman, says Gerald. Or even a painting. Yes, I'm not reading what Selwyn's put in here because I don't want to give energy to the video portion. It's in the thing. And Selwyn, we all wish prayers sent to you and for you. And just understand that sometimes there are certain things that my spirit guides say, don't repeat that. Not that it isn't important, but don't repeat that. I don't know why. David, thanks for your sharing and cheers to all in chat. Ciao for now. Ian, I'm out of here too myself. Thank you all and blessings. Your opinions and your thoughts are always welcome and worthwhile. And remember, as Milky Way Messenger says, as Brian says, be the frequency you want to be, and that is so true. So, but believing that you are the frequency you want to be. See, now that's a little bit deeper. You can be it, but do you believe it? You know what I'm saying? Just son, we appreciate you much, David. Thanks. Thank you all very much. Honestly, it is my personal job and my humble respect to all of you for allowing me to have this conversation with you. So let's spread it. Let's understand things on different levels. Let's, be bring people in by allowing them to voice their crazy opinions and then understand it. We're not going to overreact to their stuff. You're very welcome, Millie Cow and Lori. Thank you. Prayers. Cheers, everybody. And I close with my prayer as always, and I really mean this. That's why I continue to say it. I pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will accept, receive the blessings, the healing, the knowledge, and the wisdom of the universe. Every single day, I pray that each and every one of you will accept, receive, and share the knowledge with your friends, your relatives, and all of your relations and anyone you come in contact with. I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you accept, receive, and share these blessings. Continue to accept the gifts from the universe. Continue to accept the wisdom. Continue to have faith in yourself, regardless of the circumstances. Continue to understand that we are making a difference. It's it's showing up around the edges. People starting to calm down in certain areas. People are starting to be mindful of things. You got to say something's afoot. Cheers, my friend. Till next time. Breaking Dawn's over here. Much love to all of y'all, all y'all out there from down here in the South. Selwyn, Derek Still, um, uh, um, good night. Is that like good night? I think maybe possibly. Blessings, everybody. It's early on in the evening down here in South Georgia. I continue to pray that Gaza Kav, have a great night, mate. You as well. Oh my goodness gracious. Thank you so much. So Deborah's been hanging out on camera in the background. She's been getting in wood while I've been sitting here running my mouth. But it's one of those things that we need to have. We need to continue the conversation in different layers so that things you may not quite understand, you go, oh shit, I see your point. Not that you have to agree with me, but you're like, oh, well, there's another level to that that I may not have seen before. And that's what it's about. The universe and things are so vast that if you think you got it, you ain't. Every time you think you got a hold of that, boy, I got this, the spirituality stuff, I got it nailed. No, you ain't. Just saying, I love you all, but no, you ain't. Because when you get to that point and you think you got a hold of that string, or that gold, that brass ring, that golden thingy, whoops, you realize there's really is more to this than I thought before. Oh, so every level of experience expands upon the whole. My friends, it's a wonderful journey, and I'm so glad to be hanging out with y'all. So, butt cramp boogies coming, I tell you, because I got a butt cramp right now. I got to get out of seriously, and but I love you all and take care. Gerald, we will hear from you later. Love to all. Blessings. Till next time, be that kind and compassionate observer, and we'll all get through this just fine. So, peace out. Till next time, my friends. Bye bye.
Peace out.